Hello, welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. Great to be back in the studio for Indigenous Round. We are on Gadigal land and we are getting ready for a cracking weekend of football with all the action on the field and all the commemorations, if you like, or the celebration of Indigenous culture that goes with it. Hello, Gus. Welcome. You've been a bit poorly this week. How are you feeling?
Matt Thompson's been a pretty tough week, actually. Wasn't too well at all, but hopefully bouncing back now.
All right, good. I'm pleased to hear you got a bit more energy. Now, Indigenous Round. It's become one of the highlights of the calendar. There's a lot that goes with it. I think there's a lot that people still probably need to understand, but sport generally, and in particular rugby league, is very much synonymous with Indigenous culture. Now, you speak very warmly about a number of Indigenous players you've coached. Andrew Walker, you like to talk about him and how brilliant he was, but just generally, and I suppose being around Josh Addo-Carr on a daily basis would be enlightening for you as well. It's wonderful to see the way that rugby league and Indigenous culture sits side by side.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there is the sense of inclusiveness and the celebration of different cultures, not just the Indigenous Australian culture, but other cultures as well. But more importantly, and I think I've heard people speak around this time about the importance of role models, the importance that for young Indigenous Australians, that they see people that they can look up to respected and performing well on these type of both men and women. I think that's the important part, that we keep celebrating these Indigenous cultures and the successful Indigenous people that we have in Australia in all walks of life, not just sport, as role models for the future. It's what helps close the gap in education and close the gap in lifestyle and help people along and feel respected and to feel a part of the community and as part of the inclusiveness, and that's extremely important. And that's the role that these elite athletes play. They are role models, they understand it, and they know how important it is to send that message to kids growing up.
Yeah. And do you know what's been really great as just an observer and a fan of the game, to watch some of these modern-day Indigenous stars evolve. And I guess Josh Addo-Carr's a great example of that. He was very raw when he first came into top-level rugby league. He is a real role model for the Indigenous community now. And I think about Johnathan Thurston, who's probably similar. And there's a lot of players that aren't really in the spotlight as far as footballers go. But what about, like Joel Thompson did some remarkable work for Indigenous culture. I think of Will Smith, these sorts of guys. And as someone who's involved in club football on a daily basis, you'd see firsthand just how valuable people of this ilk is.
Absolutely. I mean, the country's recognised that. And in the last 15 or 20 years that I've been involved in professional sport, sports are understanding the role that they can play in helping communities and disadvantaged communities and underprivileged communities. And all our footballers do great work, not just our Indigenous players. They're all role models to someone. They're all, kids look up to these stars and they want to be like them. And, the programs that we run and, as I say, a lot of our great success stories in the NRL are not fellas that necessarily achieve great things on the NRL stage, but, they were able to use the disciplines and what they've learned out of rugby league to be great citizens and great parents and in their own right. But certainly in helping disadvantaged people or people to feel greater self-respect or greater self-esteem and to understand that, if they dream and if they work hard, that things can happen for them. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you come from in this country. It's a land of opportunity, and that's what Australia should be for every culture.
Well said. I tell you, we have got the next Indigenous superstar of rugby league with us right now, Selwyn Cobbo. Whoosh.
Yeah, I wish you'd all just settle right down. Just settle down, all right? Start labelling these kids too young. I mean, he's brilliant. He really is. But can we just let him grow and evolve as the footballers should, rather than putting him in the superstar status straight away?
Well, you better talk to Billy Slater.
I don't. Well, that could well happen, and he may well do it. I'm not saying he won't do it, but I don't like labelling them and branding them too early. I just let the kid evolve and enjoy his life, enjoy being a teenager, and enjoy the ride that's coming with the NRL. It will happen. Don't rush it for him and don't waste it for him. Don't put him up on a pedestal too soon. There's plenty out there that can knock you off.
I consider myself chastised.
Yeah.
But you watch him run. It's Greg Inglis, mate.
I understand commentators getting excited. I actually think he looks more like Latrell Mitchell than Greg. Greg, I'm not sure that he's the silky smooth mover that Greg Inglis was when he was younger. He's got that bullocking, bustling type style that Latrell's got. Latrell's just a big, powerful boy. He's got big limbs and big body, and someone reminds me of that a little bit more. And I watched a fair bit of him when he was even younger, and there's no doubt that he's going to keep getting better. I just don't want people to rush there. What's the rush?
There's no rush.
There is a rush. All of a sudden,
he's a superstar of the future.
Well, let that evolve. Don't be, putting labels on him before it happens.
Selwyn, you're a superstar of the future.
Relax.
Don't you listen to Uncle Gus.
Relax, Selwyn. Relax. Just enjoy your footy.
So I want to reassess the progress of some of these teams around the top 8. So as we sit here, the Panthers on 20 points. They've lost 1. Amazing. Melbourne 16 points. They've lost their last 2 decisively without key troops. North Queensland in 3rd place. 8 wins, 16 points, and only, what do we got here? How's my math going? 13 points behind Melbourne on for and against. Sharks on 14, Brisbane on 14, Eels on 14, Roosters 12, Rabbitohs 10. Then 10 points also Canberra and Manly and the Dragons. I want to reassess where some of these teams are at. Let's start with Brisbane, Gus. They have won 5 games in a row. You've made it pretty obvious you think they'll be playing finals football. At the start of the year, making the finals would have been a pass mark for them, do you think? Or would that have been an A+?
I think at the start of the year, I think making the finals would have been a real good result for them and a good step in the journey that's about to come. They're a team of the future. No risk with that. And they've made the buy of the year. There have been some other good purchases, but so far as what was going to suit their club and what they needed at the time and from where they've come, this is a team that 2 years ago were wooden spooners. The Broncos should be never be wooden spooners in anything. But they've found their general, they've found their playmaker, and they've found a man that can show them the way to win. And all he has done is just harness the athleticism. Admittedly, too, a lot of these younger blokes who came in and were sort of playing in losing environments there for a while have sort of been through the tough times, and that helps them helps steel them for the good times. But Adam Reynolds has been the one that's lit the fire under these young Brisbane Broncos and leading them around, and they're doing a really good job. And with that comes confidence. Confidence is so important, so important. Time spent playing together is so important. So the more you win, the less they change the team, the less they experiment, the less changes there are to training each week. You can really get into a rhythm and then start to enhance other parts of your game. If you're changing your troops all the time, you're changing messaging, and it gets very, very difficult to get consistent with performance. But they're in a nice little groove at the moment. They've still got some work to do on little parts of their game, but that's a lot easier. They can work on that now because the bulk of their game's pretty good. And Reynolds gives them the direction that they need.
Well, what's super impressive is they've won a couple of games without him and without Payne Haas. So you've taken the guns out and they've still won.
That's what happens when you're going good. You know? So people have been able to replace what they offer, and it only makes them better when they come back. They're going to be hard to beat in every game that they play. They've got great try-scoring ability, great athleticism, they're speed, they're quick. And their forwards are toiling hard.
Oh, yeah.
Their forwards are working hard. As we say, forwards win matches, the backs just decide by how far.
All right, well, reassess them for me. Like if you're sitting there, looking at where they are on the ladder, they're in 5th place.
Yeah, well, I said top 8 at the start of the year, didn't I? Yeah,
but I'm wondering now, top 8 is, you're saying it's a given. Like, where can they finish?
Oh, I think Final 4 would be a marvellous result for them. If they're preliminary final would be wonderful.
You reckon they're good enough to get that far?
Yeah, why not? There are plenty of sides that aren't.
All right. Manly. Struggling to a degree. They've been all effort, but they've got no turbo now. Did you have them top 8 at the start of the year? I mean, you said that. You said they were.
I thought that there would be improvement from last year, and provided everyone stayed healthy. We all stipulate with Manly that Tom had to be there for most of the time, but that's not going to be the case now. And they've been a little bit up and down with their form this year, with or without him, haven't they? So I don't know. It's a hard competition to read in the middle part of it, but it's hard to see them threatening the better teams now without Tom.
I don't know whether you can.
And that's not an expert commentary. Everyone will say that, won't they? But
Well,
they haven't been good enough with him.
Yeah.
To suggest that they're going to do enough without him.
Yeah. Well, this is the expert bit. I don't know whether it's possible. Does Des need to turbo-proof that team a little bit?
Well, no. You want Turbo to play every week.
No, but my point being...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Does he need to set that team up that they can withstand having Turbo missing...
Well, you can for a few weeks. You can't do it over the course of a season. Your season is going to be better with Tom there than it is without. You understand that. And Tom takes up a big slice of your salary cap. With him out, that's what the game we have these days. You know, your key players, they have to be on the field. They have to be playing. And that's why you pay them that big money, because they get you results. They're the ones that produce the wins, you know. Everything falls back onto Daly Cherry Evans and Kieran Foran now, who are very experienced players, and they're proven winners. And, this will be the last season they play together, I guess, with Kieran Foran moving on next year. So, they won't give up. Des won't give up. Manly won't give up. They're a good, tough club. And there'll be plenty of games that they win in this competition. There's a lot of winnable games. But when it gets down to the back end of the season and they're punching up for finals football and they're playing other contenders, that X factor's just missing for them, isn't it? It's going to be difficult.
So they're outside the 8 now. So they've got to make up ground to make the finals. Are you saying no?
They're still potentially a top 8 side, yeah, but somewhere between 6 and 10.
Does South Sydney overcome this inconsistency when Latrell comes back? Admittedly, they haven't had Cameron Murray there for the last little while as well. But does South season hang on Latrell?
Well, yes. Yes, to some degree. But I don't think Latrell fixes all the issues they've got at the moment. You don't get drubbings like they've had on the weekend or the upsets that they've had in recent times unless there's something else there that's underlying.
What's concerned you?
They need to snap out of it. Their attention to detail, their duty of care with different things. They have good patches, but not consistently for long enough. And we tipped against them on the weekend up there in Dubbo, and Canberra Raiders had very little trouble with them. You don't have performances like that during a year unless there's some issue. Now I know they got beat by 50 there last year, but it was different. They had Wayne Bennett and he was able to extract something out of them and get them to the grand final. But I don't see that happening this year. Latrell has got to come back. The problem will be, and I said this right at the start of the season, at some point of the year, they may have to move Cody Walker to 7 and Latrell to 6.
And you're saying that's a live chance still? The halfback's going okay, isn't he?
I'm saying that conversation will come up. That's all I'm saying. At some stage, that conversation will be thrown up as a solution to their long-term success for this season. I think that's what's got to happen. I think they've got to get Cody Walker controlling the game. They can't do that at the moment because he's playing, because there's no Latrell, so they need him a little bit wider. But I said it at the start of the year. At some stages during the season, they will have to make a decision on whether Cody Walker runs the team from 7 and Latrell moves up to 6. Put Blake Taff at fullback or wherever else they like, and see if they can't get some control up there. But anyway, that's.
So you're South's coach. That's what you're doing.
I'm saying it's worth a conversation.
That's not my question. My question was if you're coaching South.
I'm not coaching South.
No, but
nor am I telling the South coach what to do. I'm just telling you it's going to be thrown up as a solution because I don't think the solution is in what they're doing at the moment.
Is that would that be a solution?
What'll happen is Latrell will come back to fullback. If that doesn't solve it,
yeah.
I'm telling you there'll be a conversation later in the year about Walker and Latrell Mitchell in the halves. That's my belief. It may not happen. Latrell might come back to fullback and solve everything, and I'll just be evaporated into the wind.
Evaporated.
My opinion won't mean a pinch of. So.
Gee, it'd want to be hot for you to be evaporated. How would South's football change if Walker played 7 and Mitchell 6?
They need a general. They're out of sorts at the moment. That's eating away at other parts of their game too, defensively, and they don't look as dangerous as what they were. Now Latrell could come back to fullback and solve that. I'm not saying he won't. He's got to come back. He's over in America having surgery. He's got to come back and get back into the rhythm of it. That might save it. I don't know, but I'm just saying that at the end of the day, when it comes to the crunch, their solution could well be their two best players playing 7 and 6 and trying to solve it from there.
Gee, that'd be exciting, wouldn't it? Walker and Mitchell in the halves. Wow. Gus, a month is a long time in rugby league. What about the Raiders? They've won 3 straight. They were gone. Gone! Ricky was out for long lunch most days of the week. They've won 3 in a row. They've won a couple of those without Jack Whiten, and suddenly now they get Jamal Fogarty back early from injury, and all's looking shiny in the nation's capital.
Yeah, well, it's effort, all the effort areas. They've picked up on their attention to detail. And they're playing really good football. And with that comes confidence, and with that comes stability of combination. I'm just going to keep repeating myself here. It makes a big difference. They're going really good. Enjoying the way they're playing.
So, all right. Souths, will they finish in the 4?
No.
Sorry, will they finish in the 8? Sorry.
Yes.
Canberra?
Yes.
I wonder who's going to drop out then. Well, it ain't going to be North Queensland. JB Des on Ask Gus, which is on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, says, what are the main factors that have made North Queensland so much better this year compared to last year? And M. Thompson on the back of that is saying, can they win the comp?
Creativity in their spine has been a big factor. A high work rate pack of forwards who are really playing for each other, and they're doing the team thing. It's not an individual game anymore. They're really working hard for each other, and they've got great athleticism out wide. It's a really nice formula for a team. The 2 young back rowers are playing really well, give them good strike. I've said this a number of times. It's a well-balanced team. The key is the spine, though, the playmakers and the creativity that they're producing, and the speed and finishing power that they have out wide. All that comes on the back of a hard-working pack. It's a pretty simple formula. They play well over the advantage line too. They play well out of dummy half. They play well out of first receiver. They're willing to explore all the time. There's no real dead rucks with them. Too many teams have too many settle-up plays and set up for a big play. There's no real big play with the Cowboys. They're at you all the time.
They're fast, aren't they?
Well, they are fast. Yeah. But they're at you all the time. Every play of the ball, you feel threatened, and that puts a lot of pressure on defences. And when they get on a roll, they're very hard to contain. They've got a really good style of football going for them that suits them. It's not a manufactured style, based on someone else or copied from somewhere else. It's a style that's suiting them. So they've obviously recruited well. They've obviously trained very, very hard. They're extremely fit. And they're expansive. They're courageous. They're fearless. That's a big thing, being fearless, being courageous, getting out there and not just trying to look like everybody else and play like everybody else, to develop a style yourself. That's where the best coaches and the best players come from. It's fearless. You've got to be fearless about what you do. You don't copy others. If you're copying others, you're just following. If you're following, you never catch up. You've got to put yourself out in front of them. Can they win the comp? Why not? Who knows where this goes in the next 4 or 5 months? Who knows what it looks like in September? Who knows if the Panthers will still be fit and well after Origin? Who knows, if the Melbourne Storm aren't starting to fray a little bit at the moment? There's plenty of weaknesses in other teams. It's hard to find any weaknesses in the Cowboys at the moment. Who's to say that doesn't keep going? We can't tell now. Right now, I think Melbourne and Panthers have got it between them. And between them, I think Panthers are superior to Melbourne Storm. I think that part of the competition is still very, very dominant over the rest. But I don't know what it's going to look like in 4 months' time. Well, you're saying a month's a long time in football. 4 months is an age. Yeah, anything could happen. How many Panthers will be involved in the Origin series this year? They've been through it before, which is good experience for them. If they come through it unscathed, well, that's going to benefit them at the back end of the season. But
if the Cowboys keep it up, they'll be there.
Yeah, well, they're not going away.
No.
They're not going away at all.
Gee, I love watching them play. What about Penrith, North Queensland? Early game Friday. No Taumalolo, but this is a test for them. If they can stand up to the Panthers.
It's like a racehorse, mate. They come through their classes and they win races, and then all of a sudden you throw them in a Group 1. So they're in a Group 1 race this week. They're playing Panthers at Penrith. It's a great challenge for them. There is no pressure on them whatsoever. They can go to Penrith and they can throw absolutely everything at them. It's going to be different conditions to what they play at home, obviously. I think this is their first trip to Sydney this year.
Is it?
This is round 11, round 12 coming up. It's their first trip to Sydney. I don't think they've made a trip outside Queensland other than Darwin at the moment. So they've been...
How'd they pull that one off?
I don't know. They've got a very good draw. A lot of home games in Brisbane, Magic Round in Brisbane, away game in Darwin. So...
You drive to Darwin from Townsville.
I'm pretty sure it's their first trip to Sydney this year.
Mitch Warwick on Ask Gus. Good segue, this. Do you think the draw in the first 2 months of this competition can have serious ramifications for teams/clubs? For instance, the Bulldogs played last year's top 4 weeks straight. 3 of these were away games. In that same period, the Sharks played the Dragons, the Knights, the Tigers and the Storm. Admittedly, you've still got to be good enough to win them. It just makes it tough to build continuity and cohesion against the better teams while the other sides get softer targets between them. Thank you, Mitch Warwick.
Yeah, the draw's a draw. You got to deal with it wherever it is. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes it's tough. But over the course of the season, you get plenty of opportunity to win enough games to play finals football. It comes down to injuries. It comes down to the talent of your team and whether you're good enough. It's just... I don't put a lot of credence in the draw. I don't worry too much about the draw. The unfairness of our draw is that everyone doesn't play each other twice. That sometimes the teams that you play twice, you might get a couple of easy scalps. But it's even hard to work from last year to this year as to whether or not you've got an easy draw at the start of the season as it unfolds. Like you talked about the Bulldogs, they've won 2 games both against top 4 sides. They beat the Cowboys, they beat the Roosters. Can't beat anyone else. But how do you fathom that into the form and the draw and what's happened? So I never worry about the draw. The draw, what it is, people get all excited about it. I don't worry too much about it. If you're going to be an NRL player, if you're going to be an NRL coach, you learn to win anyone, against anyone, anywhere, anytime. And that's got to be your attitude. It doesn't matter what time of day, what day of the week, under what conditions, what weather, what month of the year. Doesn't matter. You've got to learn to play them all and beat them all wherever you can. And that's being an NRL player, a successful one anyway.
You're being very pragmatic today.
Well, what do you want me to say?
I don't know. I've got to try and find the button. I've got to try and get you going. When's the last time Craig Bellamy has had to get his team up off the back of 30-point losses, consecutive 30-point losses? I've been racking my brain, and I can't. I mean, maybe during Origin at some stage they've copped a couple of losses, but admittedly there's no Pappenhausen and no Hughes, but they've been comprehensively beaten in both of those games. Penrith pulled them apart, and so did North Queensland.
Yeah, look. One, it shows how losing your 7 and your 1. If you haven't got a marquee 7, haven't got a marquee 1 in your team, it brings you back to the field a lot. The same with the other spine positions. I don't know what that does to your defence, though. I don't know why your defence sort of starts to fall apart a little bit like that.
Well, Craig Bellamy has actually said that the thing he is worried about the most is that Melbourne have been beaten because of a lack of commitment over the last fortnight. That's what he said in the post-game.
Competitiveness, commitment. I think you've got to remember too, over this competition has been funny over the last couple of years with COVIDs and lockdowns and new rules, etc. They've won a lot of games by big scores. A lot of games by big scores and flashy plays and flashy football. And what we saw at the end of last year was that when it became tight and brutal again, they lost a couple of key games. They lost to Parramatta and they lost to the Panthers to bow out of the competition before getting to another grand final. I think that sometimes the ease with which they win games and the type of football that they play erodes away some of the important disciplines you need and some of the important competitive parts of your game that you're going to need to keep winning consistently against all teams at all venues and under all conditions. And right at the moment, Melbourne Storm are paying the penalty for, I think, the ease of their victories and a lot of the victories that they've had over the last couple of years. I think there have been disciplines in their game and things in their game that have probably gone unchecked because of the ease of a lot of their wins. And I think Craig Bellamy's aware of that. Whether his players are willing to accept that or not is another thing. But it was pretty obvious from his post-match press conference the other day that I don't think he was all that surprised by what he saw the other night. It kind of got to me like he half welcomed it and thought, well, maybe now they'll get the message. And I spoke to you a number of times about, Wayne Bennett.
Yeah. Let them bottom out.
Sometimes you'll let them bottom out before you can get the message through to them, and when you're winning by big scores and you're getting the admiration that you do, and everyone raves about the Melbourne Storm, and they're great players, they're a great football club, they're a great football team, but you've still got to keep finding that competitiveness and that hard edge and that hard-nosed approach that when the big games do come around against the good sides, that you're actually there, that you've actually got the hard-nosed nature that you need to win those big games. And I think that's why, now, admittedly, you bring Pappenhausen and Hughes back into the team. It makes a difference to their attack, but that shouldn't matter to their defence. And that's where they've shown some weaknesses in the last couple of weeks. And I'm just wondering whether or not their football is as together and as hard-nosed as he would have liked. And sometimes you need to cop a couple of losses like that to get the message through. Don't get me wrong, they have the talent and they have the people to turn this around very, very quickly. So I'm not panicking, and part of me thinks maybe the coach wasn't that surprised nor that unhappy to get a couple of results like that.
So we'll see them in Thursday night footy up against Manly. Two desperate teams now. Back down there at Amy Park. You'll see all the action from 7:30 live and free on 9. It'll be interesting. They got Hughes back in the team too.
Well, if they want to get themselves back into a grind mentality, if they want to treasure the things that have made them a great football team in the past, a great football team in big games, not running out and beating people by 40 and 50 and 60, but to be able to go in against good class opposition and grind out a win and leave it beyond doubt, then they get an opportunity against this Manly side who will be desperate and will be prepared to grind with them. It's the only way Manly can play now. And they're playing two very experienced halves in Cherry Evans and Foran that know that landscape very, very well, and a coach that knows the landscape well. So it's a good opportunity for Melbourne to get back on the horse that had ridden them to greatness in the past.
Yes, Melbourne Manly, hey? Shame we can't have another Battle of Brookvale. Now, 2 weeks today, Origin 1, exclusively live here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. And Phil Gould loves nothing more than State of Origin football. He loves talking about it. He breathes it.
Don't you dare ask me to pick teams.
No, I'm not.
Because we're too far out from the game.
I knew that they wanted me to ask you. Now, this is our digital team said, get Gus's team. I'm not, because you can't pick your team too early.
I'm not going to pick my team too early.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're not going to do it today. I'm going to throw some names at you, though.
Yep.
Now, everyone's saying Crichton and Staggs in the centres for New South Wales. Are you saying that?
I will say this, right? I will say this, that the Panthers were the premiership winners last year. The centres were Burton and Crichton. I don't want the selectors to forget Matt Burton, who's obviously learning a new position at the Bulldogs and making a very good fist of it. But he was the Dally M Centre of the Year last year. And Burton and Crichton have great combination, obviously, with the Penrith halves in Cleary and Luai. And I just don't want people to forget that. Don't write Matt Burton off as a Origin prospect there to play in the centres for New South Wales, which give them, and probably Brian To'o plays on that wing as well. So, and Steve Crichton we know can play anywhere. Both players would then provide great versatility throughout the squad if they had to make changes during the game. But don't write off that combination, that Panther combination, which I think would be extremely important for New South Wales going forward. I think that if I was to pick centre pairing today, my centre pairing would be Burton and Crichton.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah. He was brilliant. He hadn't played centre, and he was centre of the year. I suppose then my next question was Hines v. Whiten. Could I put v. Burton in there as well?
For
14. Utility.
No, they're not going to pick him at 14. Pick him in the side.
But, okay, but my question...
14 is the 14 reserve, do you want him to play dummy half? Do you want him to play in a forward role? Or do you want him to cover a number of positions in the back line? Whiten covers a lot of options. You can play Whiten in the forwards. You can't play him dummy half, and you can't, you can play him lock forward at a pinch, but you can certainly play him at left edge back row. He covers centre. He covers one of the halves positions. if something happened to Cleary, Luai could move to half and what have you. Hines covers everything, probably other than outside backs, but you could. The other one there, I think, is very, very underrated. There's Dylan Edwards, who's another Panther boy who can cover a number of positions from that area. And they've got plenty of options there as a 14. Hines for me is probably the one that provides the versatility and the X factor coming on into the game. If you needed points if you were behind at some stage, but. That'll just depend on the makeup of the starting lineup. I don't see Burton as a 14. I think Burton should play centre. I just hope the selectors don't forget what he did last year, and his combination with the Penrith boys could be crucial to that. And I think Steve Crichton should be a certainty. I think he should be the first centre picked for New South Wales.
All right. Well, Hines or Whiten?
Hines.
Okay. His form's been terrific, hasn't it?
You can't deny it. You cannot deny what he does.
Now, the one I want to throw at you is, now you've got Angus Crichton experience, Tarek Sims experience, Frizzell experience, Jake Trebojevic experience. What about the young gun, Kaloa Matangi?
Well, he's going better than a lot of them, being brutally honest. If you pick the others, you're picking them on past performance and the fact they've never let you down and they've performed well at this level. Are they performing at their best at club level? I don't think any of them really are at the moment, although I thought Tyson Frizzell was very good for the Knights the other day in his comeback match. But Kaloa Matangi is a player of the future and a player that can have impact, and he's got that real Origin presence about him. He's got that bullocking style, and he can make people miss. He can make people miss, and he's not missing any tackles, where all the others have probably got some defensive convictions at the moment. Albeit they've got the experience and they've been a part of the Blues camp, and that sometimes is of great value too. You've got to respect the fact that they've been there and done it in the past. But I'd have no hesitation in picking Kaloa Matangi if that's the way you wanted to go.
So if Yo, I'm taking you down the selectors path here. If Yo's a lock at 13, you've got Murray comes in. Murray plays for South this week and gets an edge spot because that's where he played last year.
Yep.
You've got to find an edge. Are you Liam Martin starts? Kaloa Matangi? What about Tarek Sims? I suppose they're saying he's more middle now. Frizzell, do you go back to one of the old tried and tested?
No, well, Liam Martin played there last year. He played off the bench. I don't think you can pick a bad side. I mean, I'm a Tarek Sims fan. I think he goes particularly well. Crichton's been there and done it before. His club form hasn't been near his best at the moment. And Kaloa Matangi, I keep coming back to him and I like him. He's just got that X factor about him. He can. Origin's very hard. Line breaks are very hard. You got to pick people that will make people miss. That can force an issue out of nothing. That catch everything that's thrown their way. They've got a little bit of rough and tumble about them, and they're not intimidated. And all those players have got that. All those players have got that, and he's just got that Origin carry in him, hasn't he? So, but not having been there, basing it on experience and players that have been there before, there's always a big factor with them.
Are you wanting to find a spot for him then? That's what I'm guessing.
Oh, I don't want him to do anything. I'm not telling him what to do.
Nearly got him.
I'm just saying that, I'd be looking very, very closely at Kaloa Matangi.
Yeah.
If not now, certainly with a view towards the future.
Yep. So 21-man squad too. So, I mean, if he doesn't make the 17, you'd imagine
I'll pick them all
somewhere.
then.
Pick them all.
21-man squad.
No, it's COVID and all that. You're the boss of. You're a football boss.
21-man squad.
Right, Queensland. Now, Harry Grant, right? Great player. But
How'd we get on to Queensland?
I'm asking you about Queensland. You're my expert.
I don't want to tell Queensland what to do.
Oh no, we haven't told New South Wales what to do yet.
No.
Jeez, I reckon.
I'm telling them to pick Regan Campbell-Gillard. That's who I'm telling you.
Oh, I missed him. Yes, RCG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two Parramatta props. They need to be picking those two.
You're starting with the Parramatta props?
100%.
And Haas off the bench?
100%.
He's going good, Campbell-Gillard, isn't
he? He's a good player, mate. He's a good forward. 80-minute front row forward who can just keep rolling through the way he does. It's just incredible.
Well, you get big minutes too. Like he's big minutes. I mean, Paulo and Haas can play 80. I mean, that's...
Doesn't get bent back, doesn't get knocked over.
Yeah.
gets up every time he's hurt, played. He's very athletic for a big front rower. He can produce something. He can produce a line break. He can pressure kickers. Very, very, very good player.
It's one of those quirks. He's played for Australia but hasn't got an Origin cap yet.
Yeah, he played one Origin game, didn't he?
Did he?
I'm sure he did. Down in Melbourne, I remember he had one. Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah. Pretty sure. He's had one.
Did he break his jaw?
Yeah.
That's the one. Just forget that. Queensland, right. Back to my... I was trying to make a very articulate point there, but it wasn't going very well, so thanks very much for saving me. I reckon Reid Marnie'd go enormous at Origin, don't you?
Yes, I do. They've got some good ones, though, haven't they?
They've got a bloody good squad to pick from.
Yeah. Queensland have a very good team.
You don't want to buy into Queensland? What about Ruben Cotto? Would you like to see him in an Origin jumper?
Where would you put him?
I don't know.
Off the bench?
You're the coach.
Off the bench, he can play hooker, he can play lock forward. He's versatile. What he's done up there, I mean, it's where they're playing him in the front row up there is extraordinary what the Cowboys are doing with him. But Origin's different. Origin's a different environment. As a bloke said to me 30 years ago, big games, big men.
You whack him with a lump of timber and he kept going. Ruben
Yeah,
Cotto.
he would. Yeah, we've seen plenty of players. He reminds me a little bit of a Dallas Johnson, the player of that effect. Look, he wouldn't be able to play. He'd be very passionate about it. He would really give them plenty. But that's one for them. I just don't know where you play him.
Yep. You'd imagine Carrigan's played himself in there somewhere. He's been phenomenal the last few weeks.
They've been good.
Yeah.
They've all been good.
Yeah.
Stuff Queensland. I don't want to talk about Queensland.
All right, now let's
Let
change.
them work it out.
Let's change.
Isn't Billy Slater getting paid to worry about Queensland?
Yeah, but
why are we doing his job for him?
So while you're indisposed, did you watch the PGA?
I did.
Tough tournament, tough course.
Well, so it should be. It's a major.
Yep.
They set it up tough and played tough.
So the young lad from Chile, Mito Pereira, was doing it very nicely. And then the last round, jitters got a little bit to him, which you can kind of understand, contending in his first major. He's level with Justin Thomas, playing the 18th. So he's got to make par to force it to a playoff. And then this happened.
He's been playing this cut shot, and this is a strange follow-through.
I mean, that is frightening follow-through.
Never got above waist high on the follow-through. It's the fourth ball in the water today off the tee at 18.
He's dumped it in the drink, Gus. Which
Yeah.
leads me into six-tackle trivia for this week.
Yeah. See, his caddy needed to help him there. And the way the swing went, I don't want to get technical about it, the way he knew he'd lost the swing well before he hit the ball.
Like a baseball shot.
That's why he tried to finish it the way. I don't think he was ever confident in hitting that club. I don't think he really had a shot shape in his own mind what he was going to try to do. The corridor that he went for was so narrow, and with the high, he'd have been better off just hitting 3-wood down the left-hand side there and going with a longer iron into the green, making par at the absolute worth bogey, and he's in the playoff. But that's experience. What I found great was that he didn't storm off the course and throw his toys out of the cot. He came back and did an interview and said, I stuffed up, and it was a great day, and it was great feeling nervous. And I don't think he choked. I think he just hit a bad swing at a bad time. I don't think it was choking. I just think he wasn't committed to that shot. And it was a difficult shot to hit.
And Thomas has been flying in the last round of majors. So that brings us to six-tackle trivia for this week. Now, I've got no doubt you're going to get this, but I want to recount it with you. Can you remember or name what this occurrence is?
Now, what to do? He's out with the driver now. Now, I'm not sure this is right. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, you lucky little rascal. First tee. Well,
I don't believe this.
Well, hello, what is going on here? I don't believe it. Oh dear, this is really, this is so sad. Won't you believe it? Oh.
Gus will address the audio question after the break here on Six Tackles with Gus. There's been some meltdowns in majors, Gus. What was that one?
He was playing with Craig Parry, and when he put the ball in the burn, when he had the ball in the water there, it was he was half thinking about trying to play it out of the water.
So what was his name?
I think Craig Parry said to him, he said, "You're going to have to do it before the tide comes in, mate." He said,
John Vandervelde.
John Vandervelde. 1999
British Open. Now, I went online and I looked at, they gave me a rundown of the 18th. Now, he's standing on the 72nd hole. He's ahead by 3.
Yeah.
Drives it over, so the burn they call it obviously in the UK. This is at Carnoustie. He drives it over 2 sections of rough onto another fairway. So all he has to do is pitch back on, then pitch onto the green. He takes 2 iron and aims for the green. It hits the grandstand, then bounces off the grandstand, hits a rock, and bounces back 50 metres into the burn again. So then, once again, instead of chipping out, he tries to hit it towards the green, hits it in the water. Then he takes his shoes and socks off. He's thinking about hitting it out of the water.
He was playing with Craig Parry, and Craig Parry said, "You're going to have to hit it before the tide comes in, mate, if you're going to hit it."
So then he takes a drop. So at this situation, even after all that's transpired, Vandervelde still had the opportunity to get up and down for a 6 and win the tournament. He hits it into the greenside bunker, then gets it out of the bunker to 6 feet. He's got a 6-foot putt to make a playoff, and he made it.
And celebrated.
He celebrated.
Celebrated the fact he sank the putt.
And then got knocked out in the playoff, obviously.
Yeah.
What about now? You reckon Mito Pereira's caddy should have had a word to him? What's John Vanderveld's caddy doing?
I don't think I've ever seen John Vandervelde interviewed about it. I certainly haven't heard an interview about it. What was actually going through him? He'd have been better off hitting 3 7-irons. He was 3 in front. I mean, you couldn't possibly lose it from there.
A Frenchman hadn't won the British Open.
Possibly lose it from there.
1907, the last time.
But you never know what pressure can do to people. Pressure does funny things, and that's where your game and your character and your personality needs to stand up. It doesn't, pressure doesn't build character; it reveals it.
My colleague here, Murray Shaw, who runs our rugby department, I was just chatting to him about this before. He said he thinks John Vandervelde might have had a bit of a breakdown, a mental breakdown after this. So maybe that's why he hasn't spoken about it. You don't come back from that.
I've seen him play in tournaments since, but I've never really heard an in-depth. He may well have done it at some stage. I just haven't heard it. I haven't heard.
So were you watching that live? Do you remember watching that?
Oh, yeah, we did watch it. Yeah. I couldn't believe what he was doing.
No.
And it was just agonising. And in the end, you couldn't look away. It was just, you couldn't believe what was happening. And I was just hoping someone would reach out and say, "Hey, mate.
What's doing?
What are you thinking here, mate?" Crikey.
So someone just walk up.
But the great commentator, you could hear it in his voice. Just play the first part of that
wonderful.
Again, where he takes the driver.
What to do?
Oh no.
He's out with the driver now. Now, I'm not sure this is right.
Now, that's great commentary.
Isn't it?
He's actually predicted a disaster before it's happened. He's first guessed it. Right? So he's first guessed it. He hasn't waited for something to go wrong. So he sat there. He saw him contemplating over his bag, what to do. And then when he pulled out the driver, he said, "I don't think this is a good choice." And everything just unfolded from there. That's great comment. That's why he was regarded as the best in his field. But that's what we call first guessing. That's not waiting for something to happen and then saying, well, that's predicting it before it happens. That was brilliant commentary, and that set the scene.
Peter Ellis?
That set Peter Ellis. He passed away recently in the last couple of years. Yeah, but he was always seen as the premier golf commentator. But it's moments like that where he actually predicts the disaster before it happens. And Not by saying this is going to be a disaster, but in his voice, you could
He's flagging it, yeah.
Yeah, you could just see, I don't think this is a good idea. He's 3 points in. Why would you even say that? Why would you even contemplate that was possible? That's brilliant commentary.
Yep. And only golf can provide that sort of drama. Okay, Stories of Origin. It's been a great success. Thanks for all the positive comments. No thanks for all the negative ones. Hasn't been too many of them, thankfully. This week, Johnathan Thurston talks about the great match winners of State of Origin Rugby League, and maybe he's the best of all of them.
My shoulder blew apart, the 3 tendons off the bone. There was one that was completely off, one was 80% off and the other was 60% off. They said that's very common in car crashes with that type of injury.
How many times in his career has he had a kick like this to win a match?
You just go through your process. Stand over the top of the ball, I pick my target out, take my 5 steps back, I make sure I'm comfortable over the ball, I take my 3 steps to the left, and then I take a half step back.
You had to have one man kick a goal to save your life. Who would you get to do it? There are a lot better ball strikers than Johnathan Thurston, but if my life was on the line, he's the one I want to kick.
It's all about the process. I put myself in this scenario thousands of times in practice. Goal kick under fatigue. On my day off, I'd go in and take a rower out. I'd do 300 metres under a minute on the rower, and then I'd go and goal kick. And then I'd do a dozen of those.
It's coming back.
I was able to ice that game that night with that goal kick.
18-16. He wills it through the post.
Unbelievable. What a player, what a goal kick.
He aimed this way outside the right hand upright. Trusted his technique.
Yes, the great Johnathan Thurston. I love that bit of, and I'm not trying to blow wind. I love that bit of commentary from you there, how he wills it over the post. He did, didn't he? He's the best match winner I've seen. The things he did, and the story that we talk about where he's got his shoulders hanging off his body. I said to him, and you'll hear it when you listen to Stories of Origin later this week, did you think about giving the ball to someone else? Did you think about giving Cameron Smith the kick? He said, no way. I'd have blown up. I'm thinking your arm's hanging off your body, and yet you still want to stand up and win the game. Like that's so special, isn't it?
No, I often used to talk about that, with football teams. I said, when the game's on the line, when the seconds are running out and the results in the balance, there are some players who want the ball in their hands, and there are some players that will avoid it. And Johnathan Thurston created his greatness out about being the man that wanted the ball in his hands. There's a great quote from Michael Jordan many years ago, and I often send it off to players when they've missed a goal that could have won them the game, or they've had a big moment where they just failed. And he talks about the number of times he failed, the number of times he was entrusted with the game-winning shot and missed. And that's what made him the champion that he is, because he kept coming back and he kept coming back. And you remember the great ones that he hit. He said, but, and Johnathan Thurston, he had... he just had this ability to will things. As I said in the commentary there, if I had someone to kick a goal for my life, I would pick him, because he'll find a way to will it through the post. He'll make it happen. All the other distractions and mechanics that can go wrong with great kickers, and how emotion can get into their flow or their heart rate, and that this bloke will will it to happen. And how does he will it to happen? How does he put himself, because he's put himself in that position so many times. You just heard it there. He used to take the rowing machine out onto the sideline. He would turn up on his day off when others weren't around. This is the training they do in private.
Yeah.
And he would put the rower on the sideline, and he would row 300 metres in under a minute, and then he would place the ball and kick a goal to win a game. And then he would get his heart rate up to enormous levels to try and match the sort of fatigue and pressure he would feel in games. So he practiced the fatigue. He practiced the pressure. And as you say, at that time, it wouldn't have mattered to him what the injury was. That was the moment he'd lived for. That was the moment he dreamt of as being a kid. He'd done that. He'd been in this moment a million times in practice from the age of whenever he could kick a ball. That's what we do. We get in the backyard. I'm going to putt to win the US Open, or I'm going to last ball to hit a 6 to win a test match, or kick a goal from the sideline to win the game. That's what kids dream of doing. And here it is. You get an opportunity to do it, and he just willed it through the posts. He kicked the goal that mattered. And that got Queensland into Game 3. He didn't play Game 3 because his shoulder was blown out. But without those heroics to finish that game and be there to kick that goal, Queensland don't go to the third game.
And the other thing about his mentality too, 2015, right? The kick from the sideline hits the post. He's not gun shy. He stands up in extra time and kicks the field goal. Nails the moment there. Like the psychology behind that. Not rattled, just wipes what happened from his mind and refocuses. Like it's I love that. I love that element of all sport, but particularly rugby league. And he was a freak.
A lot of the work that I learned to do as a coach around attitude control, about controlling your emotions and controlling your attitude and controlling what you think. And we can never control the first thought that comes into our mind. That's instantaneous. We have no control over that. But we do have a control over the next thought. There is always, obviously, disappointment and pressure and different things that happen to you, and you can't control that first instinct you have, but you can certainly control the next thing that you do. What am I thinking? What should I be thinking? And that's the process you need to go through. I listened to the great golfer Ernie Els one day, and he had a mixed day with the putter, but sank a 6-foot putt to get into a playoff on the last hole, went on to win the tournament or something. And they said, what's the key to being a great golfer? He said, you've got to have a bad memory.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas had a shank on the last day of the PGA in the final round.
Did he?
He actually wrote on Twitter, I've just won a major. I had a shank on the last day. He shanked a ball on a par 3, 80 metres into the woods.
Would have come around with me.
It's, but how do you put that out of your mind and get on with the next one? And that's what Johnathan Thurston had the ability to do. They have the really great players have got the ability not to dwell on the negative or dwell on what's happened, but then to not worry about the first instinct, but to worry about what they think and what they do next. And that's what Johnathan Thurston had the ability to do. As I said, he was denied the greatest moment in rugby league history. Had he kicked that goal from the sideline from the Cowboys after the bell, the greatest player in the game, kicking a goal after the bell from the sideline in front of 80,000 fans at the game and 4 million home watching on TV to win North Queensland their first ever title. That would have been the greatest moment in rugby league history, and he hit the post. But as you say, 5 minutes later, he kicks the winning field goal.
There was nothing wrong with the field goal moment, just quietly.
No, it wasn't. But it wasn't. It was. Yeah, that wasn't the sit around and have everyone with all eyes just on you.
Yeah, that's right.
For 2 minutes while you prepare yourself to kick. Like everyone knew as soon as they scored in the corner that this was going to come down to Thurston. His teammates are waiting over there. The opposition's waiting over there. Everything stops for the greatest player in the game.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the highest point scorer in history to kick a goal from the sideline after the bell to win a competition. How many times has that happened in history?
I've got goosebumps thinking about that.
Well, but it would have been.
I know.
And the ball was curling back, and for some reason the football gods just moved the post and put it in the way.
It was going to go through, and then it stopped.
And then 5 minutes later, let him kick a field goal. Why didn't they just give him that goal?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have just given him that goal in that moment? Why did we have to wait another 5 minutes for it to happen down that end? You know why? Because there's no football gods. It's a myth.
What?
There's no football gods.
You've been telling me for a decade there's football gods.
Yeah, it's good theatre.
It's like telling me Santa Claus doesn't exist.
Well, if there was, they wouldn't. If they were, they wouldn't be that cruel. Why would gods be that cruel?
Stories of Origin this week. Johnathan Thurston talks about his background, and you'll hear the insight into the hard work that man has done throughout his career is quite amazing. He's an amazing bloke. Thursday night footy down at Amy Park. We've kind of already touched on that. You're tipping Melbourne to bounce back, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, closer than something. But I've got to mention too, Bluebet, our good sponsors here on 6 Tackles with Gus. I think they're pretty generous odds at $5 Manly if you're interested. I mean, you think it might be a bit closer than the odds suggest?
I think they're $5 for a reason, Matthew.
Okay. Penrith, North Queensland, 6 o'clock at Bluebet Stadium. Penrith with the same team, and obviously no Jason Taumalolo or no Cole Felt, so the Hammers come into the starting team.
Yeah, and all eyes are on the Cowboys to see their extraordinary form that they've been producing and their lofty position on the table. Now they play the number one team on their home ground, and this is obviously a different class of match, and I would expect the Panthers to beat them. But all eyes are on the Cowboys just to see how they handle this assignment. There's no pressure on them whatsoever. No one expects them to win. I don't expect them to win. But it'll be interesting to see where the final score lands. And the Panthers, a lot of these players will be anticipating Origin selection. They need to put that out of their minds and have a big win for their club before they enter into the arduous Origin campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting the Panthers to get it right, but interested to see how the Cowboys go.
$1.22 Penrith, $4.30 North Queensland. Brisbane Broncos versus Gold Coast Titans. Friday night footy here on 9, 7:30 kickoff. Broncos $1.45. No Adam Reynolds again against the Gold Coast Titans. And David Fafita is on the extended bench for the Gold Coast, who I think I'm right in saying have a good record against the Broncos at Suncorp.
Well, it's the big brother, little brother, isn't it? It's the local derby. They can go either way. Titans do like playing against the Broncos. Again, it's another game where the Broncos can get to prove themselves. I think they'll hold a little too much artillery. They're defending a lot better, the Broncos. I think they'll be too good for the Titans.
Okay. Early game Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. New Zealand Warriors against the Newcastle Knights. Jake Clifford's back at halfback for Newcastle. And interesting that Chanel Harris-Tavita is going to have a hiatus following this season, but he's been named to start at halfback. $1.74 favourites Warriors, $2.10 Newcastle.
Yeah, difficult one. I don't think there'll be much in this at all, but Warriors playing up there. I think the Warriors, you'd have to favour them slightly. I thought their game last week against the Dragons was pretty good. It was a game they could have easily won, but they were our own worst enemy at different times.
Knights played 70 good minutes against Brisbane.
Yeah, they did, but I thought the result was always going to be one way there. I didn't feel like they were a winning opportunity in that game, and they probably feel a little bit dudded, but they gave up the last 10 minutes, didn't they? The score ran away from them. I think Warrior.
Okay. Souths West Tigers, $5.30 this game. Souths $1.44, Tigers $2.80 with Brooks and Laurie back in. Cam Murray is expected to play for the Rabbitohs. He was having a fitness test yesterday, I think, but he's on the extended bench. Did Joey Arrow miss last week too, didn't he?
Real danger game here for South Sydney. I think most people would expect they'll bounce back and be disappointed at the fact that they played so poorly last week. But, Canberra Raiders handled them comfortably. Well, they weren't even in the fight. And this Tigers team is playing with plenty of confidence. Jackson Hastings is leading them around the field. They get Luke Brooks back. Look, and you got to remember the Tigers only beat them a month ago. Oh dear. That's hard. It's hard. I just don't know with South Sydney at the moment. I've got to be honest. I just don't know. I don't know.
IDK.
I'm going to tip Tiger.
Tiger. All right. Down in the Shire, Saturday night footy. Cronulla versus the Roosters. What a good game this is going to be. Now, what can I tell you about team information? I can tell you there's no Victor Radley, of course. Of course, there's no Dale Finucane as well. But William Kennedy is back for the Sharks. Do you reckon Cronulla even realised how important he is to their team? Until he was missing? They really have missed him, haven't they?
Yeah, little bloke who took his position on the weekend.
Well, he went good.
Well. He was terrific. Yeah, this is a hard one. This is one that the Roosters should really be setting themselves to win. They need a really good scalp. They need to beat a good side on their home ground, and I'm going to back them to do this. Sharks have had some extraordinary performances this year and some really good passages, and they've had some ordinary stuff too. I just think Roosters can cause an upset here. If I was the Roosters, I'd really be looking forward to getting the Sharks at this time. I think the Roosters can win that.
$1.77 Cronulla, $2.05. Roosters, Canterbury to beat St George Illawarra, and game of the round. Sunday footy here on 9 from 3 p.m. Canberra Raiders looking for 4 straight against the up-and-down Parramatta Eels. Jamal Fogarty is back for Canberra, and Xavier Savage is taking on over from Chance Nickel Clustar at fullback, and also Jared Croker's back in the lineup as captain.
Yeah, the answer is I have no real opinion. This could go either way, but I love consistent winning form, and the Raiders are getting better, and this could be a peak performance if everything that they've been doing up until now is giving them confidence, and they should be going in really confident against a good side this week to make a statement about themselves. So I'm going to go with Raider.
Raider. All right. So your tips for this week, thanks to Bluebet, $2.50 Raiders, by the way, $1.53 Para.
So I'm going to go Storm, Panther, Bronco, Warrior. Now we get a little bit skew-if, don't we? Tiger, Rooster, Bulldog, Raider. That could be none out of 8.
Last 4 games of the weekend, Gus is tipping the outsider. Thank you very much. That was very enjoyable, and I'm glad that you're up and about once again. Hopefully you're feeling a bit better.
Thanks, mate.
See you at the footy over the weekend. That's 6 Tackles with Gus for another week. We'll be back next Wednesday. We'll be talking Origin. The teams will be out. See you then.